Welcome, everyone, to this special edition of Babel Quest's Beyond the Hub podcast, where we explore the strategies, tools, and insights that help businesses maximize their growth potential. I'm Tanya Silver-Jones, Head of Marketing at Babel Quest. We're an elite HubSpot partner dedicated to helping businesses transform their sales, marketing, and service operations. Now, following on from HubSpot's annual Grow Europe 2025, an event that truly broke the mold of traditional conferences by uniting marketing, sales, and service teams with a singular goal: growth. We're thrilled to host a fireside chat, diving into the key takeaways from Grow and charting the path forward for CRM users in 2026 and beyond. Before we dive into today's conversation, make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcasts, whether it be Spotify, YouTube, or join us live on LinkedIn every month, so you never miss an episode. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn by searching BabelQuest or visiting babelquest.co.uk for more resources. Now, I'm delighted to welcome our panel for today's discussion: Eric Murphy, co-founder and principal consultant at BabelQuest, and Jem Ruggun, head of expert practices at BabelQuest. Now, let's get started. Grow was amazing. There was so much discussion. I'd like to kind of dive first into the vision and takeaway from Grow. Having been immersed in the energy and the keynotes of Grow, what were the biggest overarching themes and ideas that you feel would be most significant takeaway for business leaders moving into 2026? Jem, if I can kickstart with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Grow was a great way of seeing all of the themes that I've sort of been talking about recently, whether that's through inbound or other areas. It was a great way to pull everything together. And actually, the first keynote was around the loop and kind of introducing that. And I think that really summarized everything about kind of where we've come from and where we've come to with regard to being able to use HubSpot to really make change across the business. The two big themes I feel that came out were particularly around adoption and hybrid teams. So the hybrid teams piece I found really interesting because actually at the end of the day, Louis Theroux talked a lot about kind of the human touch and bringing out those stories and having that connection. And that linked back to that initial keynote of the day where it was very much talking about how we have AI, but it very much needs to be implemented with a human first approach and having those teams work alongside each other. So those human teams being able to feel open and able to use those AI tools for making them better and boosting what they can do in their jobs. So I think that they were the kind of key themes for me. What about you, Eric?
I thought the most interesting thing was the way that they struck a balance and to make it really actionable. Because one of the challenges that you get with these kind of events is that they're either a sales pitch frenzy of like, here's all our stuff, go and buy it, and getting hit by every one of their partners in that ecosystem all trying to flog their stuff at the same time. Or it's so strategic, far-view, visionary stuff. Yeah, all very good, but like, what do we do about this? And there was a really nice element in the middle of the way they presented, particularly things like loop marketing, but also the way that, like, talking about this hybrid teams, the AI assistants and agents, like these are things you can use today. Now, we're conscious that you are thinking out to the future, but it's really difficult to think far out into the future. Nobody's working to a 3 to 5 year business plan anymore. It's happening much faster. And in terms of your business strategy is taking a review every 3 to 6 months in order to look what the impact of AI is doing to your teams, to your market, to the way your customers buy. You need to be very, very agile and quick in terms of technical deployment. So it's like, you don't have to wait. You don't have to spend 3, 6, 9, 12 months working out how do we work out what some of these tools would do and how do we drive user adoption. It's like, they're super easy to use. They're really safe to be able to use right now. We love like things like they use in the internal FAQ assistant to kind of really get people familiar with the way that this works before trusting it to go external. But those kind of things can happen in a matter of days, not years. It's typically what happened before. So for me, it was the real thing is they set out a vision for the future, but it's a lot closer than typically businesses would need to do. And to driving growth in the shorter term it requires a lot more iteration, and you have to have a shorter term view. That's not sacrificing that you're going to have a longer term growth view of the business, but realistically, the impact of what you're doing, your strategy will need a review in a shorter time scale. And that ability to everybody could get takeaways. So I've got my key takeaways of this, but everybody who came there went, I'm going to do that. And that as well. Everybody's coming out there excited with things they could take away immediately. I mean, we were even using it in the room, using some of the AI features in the HubSpot app to be engaging with people there and then. So I thought it was a really successful event, and it's been a significant jump forward from the previous ones that have been. This wasn't the first one. But the way that they've evolved over time is really exciting. I'm really looking forward to what they do with the next one.
I think, Eric, that kind of links to one thing that I have been saying as well since Grow. I think Grow is that perfect encapsulation of the fact that actually, if we go back to August, just a few months ago, we were all talking about these ideas around AI and where we'd love to be, and this kind of, it was a little bit more pie in the sky back then. But actually, with some of these introductions of AI in HubSpot, which actually a lot of them only really came to the forefront and got boosted to be able to be used in September. Kind of looking back to August versus now, we're in a very different place with where the tools are. So actually suddenly Grow's quite a nice position to be in, because actually suddenly we're actually able to do a lot of this stuff that was just a bit of a fantasy before. So I think that's why Grow landed so well, because actually it is stuff that you can go away and do that you've been hoping to do for years. So I thought that was a really interesting element too.
Now, you've both touched on AI, and we know that this was a huge topic at Grow, and really focused on driving change. And we know that HubSpot's new mantra is the human leads and AI accelerates. Now, as we're looking towards 2026, what does this new era of AI accelerated CRM actually look like for sales teams? And how does it prevent the issue of tools in search of a problem?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting one to see how that all comes together. I think you're starting to build the use case of this. And I think an interesting one to just touch on is that customer agent. Because I think, interestingly, the reason customer agent has had a bit more traction than the likes of prospecting agent is actually because we've been using AI chatbots or just chatbots for some time. And customer agent is really just the acceleration of that. So that's kind of highlighting how AI and the tools there are taking something we're already doing and accelerating it forward. Because it feels a bit more comfortable to be able to take a chatbot and be able to feed it with more information and for it to go and do that after. So I think really that's a good example of what it's doing for us. It's kind of like the customer agent. The benefit of that is it can be dealing with those customer inquiries that are a little bit more kind of run rate or day to day, the same questions over and over, which leaves time for the humans to be able to pick up those more complex things, the things that need a bit more of a human touch. So that in itself, for me, summarizes what it can do across the board. So it's the same with prospecting. We're trying to get that initial touch with a prospect. The AI can be doing that, which leaves time for the actual BDs to be going and actually having those conversations once that's started. So I think, yeah, that's a really interesting kind of evolution that's being driven by that AI for me.
What about for you, Eric?
I think it's really interesting because clearly we've seen a dramatic jump forward in just a few months, just in terms of usability and the kind of speed of deployment and the kind of speed of being able to get out to market. But something that actually changes your productivity is huge. We've seen enormous boost in productivity from the sales team. And it's like, do you hire another 2 salespeople, or do you just give them this stuff? And all of a sudden they are 80% more effective straight away, because the prospecting is kind of on fire. The conversion of leads that come to them are highly qualified with the right context. It takes them a few minutes to get well prepared ahead of a call. They're coming out the other end of it with all the wrap done and follow-up done for them. There's the amount of sales calls you can get done in a day, sensible sales meetings done in a day, has gone through the roof. And do you really want your reps doing the kind of low-value grunt work? I mean, we always talk about, like, particularly in the sales perspective, 30% of sales time is spent selling. Like, that's if they're good, right? If there's, of the 70% non-selling time, the most worrying thing is they're writing content Like, if you got good content writers in your business, and we're going to make a solid bet, they're in your marketing team, not in your sales team. So if they're spending all the time writing stuff, there's something going wrong there. These tools help you put the salespeople into what they're good at, and don't have them doing things that they don't necessarily excel at. It's they're expensive, and there's a lot of time to spend that. But I think the key thing for me is thinking then about the strategy and this kind of, is it tools in search of a problem? I hear this sometimes, people saying like there are no AI shaped holes because you're looking in the wrong place. If we're looking down specifically into like an area like prospecting, for example, can an AI do the job that do we really need to? We can do prospecting already. Why would we get an AI to do it? The challenge is that the whole you're looking at is not the individual task happening with that person, it's productivity. And productivity right across that process is so multi-layered, and it's too big to think about. So we don't see the whole because we don't see it's that big. But if you look at that, the impact of speed across the whole customer journey, and if we're able to respond to somebody in real time because we've got the right contact information, we've got the right context, or they are interacting with the customer agent, or they're telling us about the kind of tier 1 queries that typically would have just been off the FAQ, but now we're capturing that, and then it goes to a tier 2, and we can interact with that as well before it hands over to a human. The volume of data that we're now capturing and the speed in which we service that buyers, the speed they can move through their own buyer journey is phenomenal. It's a huge difference when you put the touch points together. If you go looking for an AI-shaped hole or tools, problems looking for that, so you're not going to find it looking at a granular level. You have to think about it strategically, about how easy are you to buy from. Well, not just buy, to buy and stay and come back and advocate for you. Every single buy you've got, if they are not out there advocating for you, you let them down somewhere. And it could be as simple as that. They had an expectation you'd respond in a certain time and you didn't. You let them down, therefore they go off and look for something else, or they don't feel quite as good as advocating for you. That big piece, driving advocacy, the whole productivity piece, that's the AI-shaped hole that it's solving. And so strategically, got to look up away from the day-to-day work and find out overall what's going to make the difference for us to get more customers who are going to spend more money more frequently, because it's not down there.
Okay, so kind of moving from that vision to the reality of it, because you've just touched upon a little bit of what you're saying. So the reality on the ground, what are the key challenges facing HubSpot and CRM users right now? I know in previous discussions, one of the AI challenges that we've spoken about is shadow AI and the foundational need for clean data. How big of a hurdle is this for clients trying to leverage the full power of HubSpot in 2026? Jem, do you want to kick us off with that?
I think it's an interesting one, and this kind of goes into that adoption piece I mentioned earlier. It's kind of that secondary thing. Like if you're driving these hybrid teams and looking at that, it's kind of ensuring you're driving that in a productive way. I think it's looking at how that use of AI is being done. And one of the things that I always come back to is even before this point in August where a lot of things changed, is like being able to actually make sure your data is accurate. And I think actually having that, I've always said data is so important, and actually now it's even more important, because if you look at the stages of the loop methodology, 3 of the 4 are utterly dependent on data. So if you look at being able to express yourself, having that brand voice, which you can now put into HubSpot, being able to express that and make sure it's accurate across the board, then even being able to tailor your content. So being able to look at different segments of the data and tailor that message. The data's got to be correct, otherwise they're going to get the wrong message at the wrong time. And then even kind of amplify to some extent, but evolve, and that being able to review your campaigns, review what's going on across the board, and kind of transform and keep going and keep that momentum going across the loop. Without good data, none of this is possible. And in order to get good data, yes, you need someone checking the portal, that super admin kind of role, making sure that everything is being done. But the teams need to be well adopted in that, and they need to know what they should be doing, know the requirements of them. And equally, everything should just be made easy for them to tick those boxes and to follow that process. So for me, I think that adoption piece is crucial to making sure that all works.
Okay. I love this question because a lot of the big projects that I'm working in constantly having conversations where there's just a total misunderstanding about what the data is. And, if I'm talking to CIOs, CTOs in big organizations, they're saying, yeah, but our data's rubbish. And if we run the AI on the rubbish data, we get a rubbish output, or usually worse things. Say that, you know the acronym. Right. The problem that they're missing is that the data that is sat fragmented all over the place in other systems isn't the data that HubSpot needs. In order to be able to run the loop, or to be able to get a buyer to go right across their journey, they generate their data on the fly. It's data today that you are not capturing. You are not capturing. You might be capturing something if you're running your email service by using MailChimp or something like that. You get your email stats, but you're not getting the conversion through to the next step and the one after that and through to revenue. It can't do it. If you're doing, you're running your survey stats externally from HubSpot and it's not connected, you can't get your customer health scores from that stuff. If you can't see the impact of what it does, not just the number, but what do they do as the result next? And if you're using things like these kind of meeting recorders, like Fathom and Otter, when you go to a meeting, there's like 79 different meeting recorders all turn up in their different systems. Shadow IT is running one of those that is not connected to your CRM. If you're running one of those things and you think, great, so what am I going to do? I'm going to get my subscription. I'm going to get it later. I'm going to get out of Gong, or I'm going to get it out of Crisp or something like that. I get my summary, I get my action points, and I use that to follow up over email. But that interaction, the question that we asked and how we summarized, how we interpreted, was not seen by HubSpot. So that data has been lost. But that data was absolutely critical. Like, what was the conversation? How did I react to that? What did I do? What was the next action I took? And what outcome did we get to? So that data, insight, action, and outcome, if the insight and the action are happening elsewhere in another system, even if installing your machine here, but it's not linked into HubSpot, you are losing that interaction data. So how do you work out what kind of questions should we ask? What kind of answers should we respond to? What is the next step thing that should we do? What kind of things are happening in the sales calls that is moving slightly further away from our marketing messaging? Do we need to coach them? Do we need to fix the messaging? What do we need to do? You can't see that stuff if it's in all these different silos. And from a lot of people saying that, well, that we'll get round to using the AI at some point. It's just not for us right now. There's no pressing need for it. How many of your team are currently using another LLM? Who's using ChatGPT in your business? Who's using Gemini? Who's using Claude to do these things, to come up with ideas, to work on client or marketing materials or proposals or emails back to customer service and dealing with complaints stuff? Who's using those? Because those LLMs can be connected directly to HubSpot, and you can be able to use that to extract the stuff and then get the information back in there and move from there. But getting it all in one place, if it's shadow AI, you are leaking not tons of data. And I love from a cybersecurity perspective, like worries out there. There's things you can do to prevent that. I'm sure there's lots of mistakes and worries going on about that. But the bigger worry is that there's value in that data that you are not capturing and you are not using it in order to be able to better service your customers. And if you only need to have one or two competitors in your sector who do that and you don't, and they're faster. They're faster and their context is better and the quality of their delivery is better. And that will take customers away from you and over to them. So I think worse than ever, the ability for your competitors to eat your lunch if they're faster than you is a significant problem. And the shadow AI part of it, these things are happening in your organization now. Don't say your team are not going to use AI. They all are. Their kids are using AI to do their homework. Their kids are using AI to be able to make up songs rather than listen to things on YouTube. They're using AI for search rather than Google. It's already moved. So I think the risk of shadow AI is huge, not necessarily from the security threats and all of those things that are going on, but just the amount of value you're allowing them to leak away or that you can't follow up on. It's just, that needs addressing.
I think on that one, Eric, as well, a really good example of kind of the inverse of that actually is, and exactly to your point, is that unstructured data and the nuance within that unstructured data that really is that crucial detail between those traditional data points. The example of this I have is I recently did a piece of research for a client in that evolve stage of the loop methodology. just using Breeze Assistant in HubSpot. So actually being able to ask, can you analyze all of the sales calls from the last 2 months and bring out the key themes from those calls, any flags, any questions that work particularly well? And it gave me about a 5-page document, again, having asked various questions, key themes coming out. All of this was only possible because that team are logging every call, every email, every communication, and they're all using it. So that insight was applicable for across the team, and it could then use that for comparison. Like you say, if one of the team is going off using a different note taker, that has just gone and isn't there for that comparison. So completely agree. And that's already coming up regularly in client communications.
Just picking up on what you've both said with regards to strategic adoption. Now, we know that businesses may face multiple hurdles. There is an immense opportunity for organizations to move with reactive adoption to from reactive adoption to strategic implementation. What's the biggest competitive advantage that you see for companies that truly actually embrace strategic control of their AI future?
Sure, Eric has some big, far-reaching ideas on this, but he can get his thoughts in. One thing that I'm seeing at a more kind of practical level, things that I'm seeing as a actually a change where people are trying to be more proactive, is a lot more focus on strategic review, being able to focus on what that roadmap is. So people starting to roadmap out, just even quarter by quarter at a time, starting to look at what the priorities are and actually looking at some of these AI tools and how they can start to bring those out. So knowing, okay, we need to get the customer agent up and running. We need to do prospecting. Here's how we can phase it out. And then almost filling in the gaps. Okay, in order to do that, we're going to need to get this data tracking well enough in advance and all of those things. So I think a lot of it is just some teams are just naturally thinking, right, we need to make a plan. We need to be more proactive about this. And I think that is the advantage, really, in that a lot of these teams are actually thinking how they can operationalize these tools and get them up and running as quickly as possible and have a plan behind it. A lot of it is just starting to use it. You don't know what this is going to bring to the business until you start using it. So having a plan about getting it in is actually putting you far ahead of others who are still sat there going, I'll wait till the moment we need prospecting agent. Because like Eric said, there's never going to be a gap that tells you need prospecting agent. You'll only notice the gap once you're using it and you realize, well, how did we ever live without it? So I think really planning for that change and being proactive about it is a big thing.
How did we ever hit our numbers without it? So I love this question as well. And I think there is immense opportunity. And I think that with the point in there, you're asking, what's the biggest competitive advantage? I'm going to give you one word for this: certainty. Like, I don't think, why does certainty apply with AI? Surely AI is all about, it's all a bit volatile and it's all about worrying. It's all chaos and everything's changing so quick. And I just don't know. And like, well, we could try something here. None of that really fits in the world of certainty. But let me tell you what happens. That if your team are using this to be able to generate your marketing content and campaigns, it doesn't take very long for them to go, I am now confident we can deliver. I'm confident this is right. I'm confident this is a nailed on job. This is really, really good. That confidence comes through in that writing, through that materials. Sales teams, I'm confident we can nail the sales call. We've got all the right context. We've done the research. We've got the structure. We've got the thing following up. We're not going to miss a trick. We're going to follow up immediately. We're going to create a plan and we're going to show that we got control of them. I am certain that I can deliver a good job for this prospect. Right, that comes through. That confidence comes with it's the certainty underneath it that really drives the confidence. And when you're looking after your customers, if I'm certain that, like, I can say, let's say something's gone wrong, and it does all of the time. But if a customer comes to you and say, I have this problem, and we have the ability to be able to take the time and listen and extract everything so that we can say, I 100% understand what it is that you're saying to me, and I can empathize and I understand how you feel about it, and let's work on how we put this right. Let's put that value in that. The certainty that goes with it, because I've got the recording, I've got the transcript, it's been summarized, it's nailed the key points, it's told me how to do these things, and it's helped me get to the point of delivering this. I know this is going to resolve this query. I know we've saved that customer and I'm going to keep them on. Right. So that certainty feeding through it really feels like from the people side of things, it is enormously attractive. I would say that particularly from a sales perspective, make eye contact, smile, and listen. If I can come back with certainty in my response that what I'm telling you is right and it's going to deliver value for you, then that is the final part of the picture, and those customers won't leave. So I think that is, for me, a bit of an edge case and a bit of a mad jump. But the biggest competitive advantage you'll get from deploying this AI in your business in a connected manner across the customer journey is that you'll deliver certainty to your prospects and customers.
I absolutely love that response. But you can't deliver the certainty until there's a cultural change, right? We know that culture is one of the often one of the hardest parts of digital transformation and implementing any new tools. So if a team doesn't understand the why of adopting AI or doesn't see it as a benefit to them specifically as an individual or to their teams, there will be resistance. Just going back onto kind of the AI piece, what's the practical advice that you can give to leaders that take back to their offices post-grow to enable their teams with the necessary skills and the confidence and, as Eric said, the certainty for that strategic AI adoption?
Yeah, I think going back to Eric's point earlier when he was saying like everyone is using AI in their lives, right? Like, but we don't necessarily need permission to use AI in our daily lives. It's our lives. I can go and collate my shopping list using AI if I really want to. I think a big thing within businesses is for that leadership driving the adoption and being able to push that down through the business and being able to say it's okay to use these tools, we recommend you to use these tools, and actually really driving that, using enablement sessions, kind of show the tools, whether that's kind of sending them to sessions that we're running, for example, and showing them how to do that. And equally, quite a few of the talks that grow are around kind of giving the starting point. So I went to a really good one that was around a methodology for prompts. Like, how can you actually ask the right questions to your AI, and actually being able to educate the team on get the most out of your prompts by asking these types of things. And one of them was about kind of playing devil's advocate in your question and asking it to flag any potential anomalies and things like that. That's taking away the risk for those end users to actually use these tools. And if it's you're driving that change down and you're giving them the tools to be able to use it, you're taking away that kind of barrier to entry and you're allowing them to start. That's probably the best thing you can do for your teams. It's all there. You just need to give them the confidence to start.
Yeah, I love that response on it being led by leadership. Eric, what are your thoughts?
So my thing that stuck out in your question was it was the why, right? So that bit of why, and we're adopting AI, we're managing change, and when you go to change anything, so people are scared of change. Well, no, everybody likes change all the time. They're scared of uncertainty. So if we get back to that certainty thing we were talking about earlier, you get things to move forward. But the clear thing, the thing about when why crops up, it's usually because somebody is feeling, nobody likes asking the question why. And nobody likes being asked it either. I reflect on this from having literally probably tens of thousands of conversations where I have to ask why. Or from the consulting side of things, from the sales work that I've done, it's actually a fairly useless question as well, because people panic because they don't like it. What you've got to break it out into is its two elements of from what cause and to what end. So this makes a very big difference when you come into this. If you come to somebody and say, right, as a business leader, you need to use AI. And you go, why? They go, because it will save me money and you will work harder and therefore we make most profit. People are going to go, not really interested in that, mate. Doesn't really light my fire. Say, well, here's the thing. Our customers require more. They want us to move faster. They want the answers quicker. They don't necessarily want to wait till they meet with us next week. They need it now. And they're already going to find this stuff online. And they're used to the speed of AI. We need to operate like that as well. So we notice that our customers are changing and they're getting more demanding. The thing is, if we do that for them, then what will happen is that we will get more customers who spend more money more frequently, which will drive that customer-driven growth. At the point you buy a CRM system, right? More customers spending more money more frequently. That's what we will get. And they'll do that because you're excellent at what you do. And the things that don't necessarily allow you to do that great work all the time because it's administrative and it's getting in the way, you don't have time to do it, you now can. What happens if like that time barrier was no longer a factor? It simply could appear and move things. Based on what you've done before, you could move the needle and deliver a way better job for that customer than you've done previously, and then get on with the next one. Like that, because the customers will get a better experience, because you get to do the best of your job every single minute of every single day, helped by this stuff, makes your life easier. And you know what? You're probably all going to get in for a pay rise as well, because we've been massively profitable and you'd be so valuable, we wouldn't want to let you go. It's a bit of a different message, isn't it? So I think that the point in there is, if you're going to people and they're asking why, you've already got it wrong. You need to go to them with a vision for this stuff. And it's the point of you doing this stuff. The AI is in service of who? It's not in service of the balance sheet. It's solving for the customer first, solve for them first, solve for your users second. And then everything will happen downstream from there. Productivity, improved profitability, all those kind of things will happen. But you can't do it unless you focus on how do you get your user to deliver their value to your customers at the first step.
I love that. And I know that the whole human-led AI accelerates. AI is meant to be, it is your assistant. It's not here to replace you. It's here to assist you to do a better, faster job than you can, and really to allow you to have the time and space for your own creativity. Now, I know we're now short of time, so on to my last question. We've talked a lot about AI landscape, some of the volatility, some of the shift from reactive adoption to strategic implementation, and the vital role that data and culture play. As we wrap up the discussion, I wanted to ask each of you for your ultimate piece of advice for HubSpot users and business leaders planning their digital transformation journey in 2026. What's the one core principle or strategic action that they must prioritize right now to ensure that they drive success, and that they are the driver and not the passenger of their AI future and CRM future? Jem, kick us off on this.
I don't know if you're going to tell me off that this is more than one thing, but I'd just say take action, start, just start and make a plan to do so. I think to be the driver, you have to drive it. And I think actually kind of going back to Eric's point where it's kind of don't say why we need to do this, is just say we are going to do this and go forward with it and give that vision and get people excited and move forward, and making plans and having those milestones in place will help it push forward. So yeah, really it's just start.
Eric?
I think I might have peaked too soon on my this question. We should read forward to all the questions before the end. No, sure. So we talked there about certainty is a kind of, it's an outcome from doing this stuff. Having a vision and getting people engaged in it helps. What Jem's saying, take action right now. You need the vision to get that action. But if you're caught in like, well, what action? What is it that we're meant to be doing? Like, you've got to get straight on what your purpose is. So I had a fantastic opportunity to spend time in a room with 100 CIOs, and they were all talking about these kind of things in the particular sector. And one of the things that they recognize that is no point in just trying to think about, well, what value do we add as an organization? It's more, what value do our customers add to the world when they're out there? The second, let's think purpose out further out in this stuff. AI is such a transformational shift. It's like we're not going to be playing by any of the rules of the Industrial Revolution anymore. This is way out there stuff, and we don't know where that stuff's going. But one thing we do know, that as a business, if our businesses are utterly reliant on our customers. If we don't have customers, none of the rest of it matters. You know, a lot of these systems that are built from the ground up, looking at internal governance and compliance, and I've got things to say on all of those as well, I can help too, not dismissing it, or built from the P&L and the balance sheet up, trying to get to the point where it eventually touches that customer interface. It's upside down. Your foundational level of data is your customer interactions. How do they move through the journey to give you some money? And how do they come back? Right? That needs to be the baseline. Everything else comes off the top of that. That all of the other, your internal processes don't live without that kind of thing happening. Now that we've got the ability to have it in one single platform and get all that data together and all that unstructured, messy, chaotic stuff being translated into something you can use by the insight that's coming out of it, the action you take, and the outcome that you get, and then being able to go through the loop and be able to make all those enhancements and drive it faster and faster. Having that base layer based on the individual interactions of your customers, driven by AI, is going to give you all of the kind of things that you need to drive that customer growth. So I think it's got to come back to purpose. You have to understand what it is your customers are trying to do in the world and help them. If you get behind their purpose, they'll stick with you and you get much richer engagement and then the ability to drive all these other things as well. So that purpose.
Purpose. Amazing. Thank you both so much. That brings us to the end of our special post-grow edition of Beyond the Hub. Eric and Jem, thank you for sharing such valuable insights with us today. To our listeners who want to continue to learn with us and want to learn more about BabelQuest, there are links in the chat to our LinkedIn accounts, or visit babelquest.co.uk for more resources. We are dedicated to helping businesses transform their operations to dominate their market and grow revenue. And to our listeners interested in continuing their growth journey with BabelQuest, we have several resources in 2026 you won't want to miss out on, from our bi-weekly HubSpot product update webinars, which takes place on the first and the third Wednesday of each month at 10 a.m., where we break down the latest features and how to leverage them in your business, to our specialized bi-monthly Ox Hub in-person events, which is a local Oxford meetup for HubSpot users passionate about unlocking their business growth, to our thought-leading topical blogs and our industry research reports. We have something for everyone coming at you hot off the press in 2026. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share it with somebody who might benefit from this conversation. For any questions, or if you'd like to suggest a topic for future episodes, please email me at tanya@babelquest.co.uk. This has been BabelQuest, and this has been Beyond the Hub by BabelQuest. Until next time, thank you all.
Hey, bye.